Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. This week revolves around our correspondents, 20 podcasts, one for each Premier League club. We go from Merseyside to South East London, James.
Who we got? 3-5 who? We're talking about Arsenal.
That's actually quite a good one, James. So why don't you introduce our actual guest? That is a good one. I'll give it that.
South London's finest, genuinely, without meaning to piss off Millwall and Charlton and a few others. We are speaking to our Crystal Palace correspondent at Migtavius. How are you, Mig?
Evening, lads. How you doing?
Good, thank you, mate. Good. Let's start with the new signing, if we can, because I feel like that's given your support a little bit of anticipation and excitement that was extremely needed.
Oh, definitely. It was to see us actually sign young players, and not just on loan, but permanently as well. Just it added such a refreshing part to your day, just to go, because we could hear it, rumours, and it was going on for days and weeks, and he's signed, no, he hasn't signed, and so to finally actually see that he's got the shirt. And the fact that he's apparently been told by Roy that he's got freedom to play across the front where he wants to. So that's refreshing just in of itself, just to have some freedom to play in a Palace side, which is normally quite set in its way in positions. It's certainly added a lot more optimism for the season.
What can he bring, or is it an unknown for you at the moment? Have you seen much of him in the past?
I've heard about him. I think in January we were looking at him.
Have we even said his name?
Eze.
If we're talking about Ferguson. Sorry.
We actually said Eze, yeah. Sorry, go on, Mick.
Yeah. So I believe we were looking in January. I'd done a little bit then, but then kind of it dropped off. So naturally I didn't really look at it, and then the whole football stopped anyway. I've looked more in the last few days. Obviously everyone looks good on YouTube, but I've heard a lot of good things. The QPR fans are really good about it. They were sort of wishing him well, which is quite rare to see nowadays, with people leaving their clubs. And he's only played in one pre-season game, and he went off I think at half time because he felt his groin a little bit, but he's with the England under 21s at the moment, so I'm sure that's fine. But he apparently looked good in that. Him and Zaha linked up quite well, which is good to see, since the rumours of Zaha leaving has got a bit quiet at the moment. I'm sure that'll ramp up towards the end of the window anyway. But at the moment, it seems okay.
A few Crystal Palace fans, QPR fans that I know have also said that that they were sad to see him go and that he will fit in. And I think there was a lot of interest from other clubs as well. So that always bodes well when other clubs are looking to buy a player as well. The scouting network have had their eye on him. I know my club were looking at him as well. So it's a good bit of business for Crystal Palace to pick him up. 6 million in FPL. He's a little bit more than the likes of Armstrong, St. Maximin and what have you. I think he's a wait and see. If he does well, then I could see quite a lot of people gravitating towards him at 6 million for that fourth or fifth midfielder slot. But for the start of the season, I think he's going to be a wait and watch, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with West Brom's Pereira. It seems like almost, it's probably a good thing, to be fair, that people in FPL Towers have given so much credence to how a player has performed in a lower league to give them that bump. I mean, he's got, Pereira got like 20 assists or something ridiculous. As he got 11 assists, he got like 10 goals. So they've done well in that, and they've carried that form, hopefully, into the Premier League. And the FPL have recognised that and gone, if we give these guys at 5 mil, 4.5, just because they're in a lower team, everyone's going to have them. They're going to be like 80 plus ownership. So to actually give them a credence of 6 mil, at the moment, he's in my latest draft, but that's probably more of a light-headed. He's actually signed for us.
Yeah, I want to look at a Palace shirt in my FPL team.
Yeah. Well, I've got two, but I won't. They may not last. One of them there purely because of price. But yeah, and the expensive midfields. But 6 mil is probably definitely too much for the start, but if he hits the ground running, I mean, the first 4 games are relatively tough, but from 5 onwards, we have quite a nice run. So if he settles well in the first 4 games, then I don't see why he can't be an option from 5 onwards.
He is extremely talented. 14 goals in the championship last year for QPR. He has a real grace about him when he dribbles with the ball. He looks confident. He's the sort of player you think, I ain't going to be able to get this off him. That's how he struck me the few times I've watched him. I can certainly see him leaning in and having a good relationship there with Zaha in terms of dominating that side of the pitch. I can see him being withdrawn to start from a 10 position and just get drawn to playing in an inside left position just to be close, because those two together could be fucking ballers, right?
Yeah, if you're a right back and you're seeing them two running at you with the ball, you're gonna hopefully run away.
This is what's been the problem. I've been heavily critical of Zaha, and I feel like as a football club, you'd be better off taking the money and then going and spending it on, to be honest, on people exactly like Eze, in fairness, and rebuilding and getting a younger team, etc. But if he's going to be happy and he's got someone he feels is on his ability level, etc., then it's fine. The problem with Zaha is exactly that. People systematically go and target him, A, because he gets wound up really easily, and B, because people are happy to let the other side of the pitch go freer, knowing, right, I can't get left isolated one-on-one against Zaha. And teams just don't. That's almost like, right, well, how are we going to stop Palace today? Right, well, we're going to double up on Zaha. That's the first thing that will get said every time anyone plays you. And that's why he gets the hump. That's why I like him more. That area where he scored the goal against Chelsea, where he levers the thing, which is obviously an unusual goal for him to score. But that's the area of the pitch I'd want him involved, where he can go and be free. Yeah. I would like the idea, even, to be honest, if you had Van Aanholt at left back, if you can get an attacking right back, that you played like a 4 with a 3 similar to Liverpool, and let Zaha and Eze go off a front man. And we've spoken this before about you changing systems, and me and you have discussed it. We've gone, oh, that sounds better. And this sounds like another one, maybe. But I think at least Zaha's going to feel like he's got someone on his wavelength now in terms of ability. Eze is potentially very, very good. He would not be in my thoughts for FPL at the start, though.
No, but he's definitely... If we're bringing in players such as that, we're also rumoured people like Brewster, Gallagher from Chelsea is also rumoured to come on loan. He done quite well in the Championship last season. So if we can get these sort of young potential stars, certainly needing of a rebuild. I mean, Zinzo, had the oldest squad in probably the history of football last season. And he can actually, maybe giving him the role of a senior player can almost make him more of a player than being the one that's always targeted. Because now you're going to have people like Eze, which is going to draw defenders away from him, hopefully, so he doesn't have 2 people on him. Or it just leaves the right-hand side completely open for someone to drop into Townsend, Meyer, anything like that. So hopefully, if he does stay, I mean, there's not a certainty in and of itself, but hopefully having the players like Eze around him and Ayew, who done really well last season, can hopefully give him the confidence and the strength to carry on.
I was going to ask you about Jordan Ayew, because a lot of people want to power into the midfield, so we need to save some money somewhere. Again, just like that midfield space, 6 and 6.5 million is a crowded striker slot. You've got Mitrovic, you've got Chris Wood, you've got Antonio and others. But if Jordan Ayew did all right last season, 130 odd points, if he had someone else to provide him with more assists as well, you could easily see that going up. But he's not one that I've seen in too many drafts as Jordan Ayew. No,
because he's always, even though he finished top, if you look at 6 mil strikers, he's got the most points. But obviously you haven't got people like Mitrovic, Rodrigo, who's now Kalman. They're looking more attractive, especially as talisman in Mitrovic's position. And Fulham having a better start to the season. Mitrovic has got form. So there are others, although he does look attractive at 6 mil, a little bit of, maybe more attractive to me. But I would, even me speaking as a Palace fan, would probably side with starting with Mitrovic, unless you wanted to load up in the midfield and needed 2 strikers around 6 mil to maybe back up like a 9 mil, 8.5, something like that. Then I can see him squeezing in alongside Mitrovic, but
I think with Ayew,
options.
I owned him for long periods last year. Most people didn't want him last year at 5 million. Why do you want him now at 6 million? It's genuinely the first question I'd throw back to someone. If someone's saying, oh, yeah, okay, you got 132 points last year. And if you just look at that, 132 points for a 6 million forward, it's okay, you know, we'd take that.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to suffer long periods of nothing with someone like Jordan Ayew. Definitely. He will have spells where he'll go 6, 7 games and there's nothing for you there. And then he'll have a little spurt and then it's nothing again. That's how it felt to me. At 5 million, it was kind of at the price where, depending on fixture, I could either play him or not play him. At 6 million, you're playing the guy every week. And we're talking about a side who, yes, Eze are in, but it's still very concerning from an offensive proposition. At the moment, also with Ayew, we can't really be sure where he's going to play at the moment. Does he stay on the right, do you think, Mig, or does he go back through the middle if you don't buy someone there?
I would like to think he goes back through the middle. I mean, I'm hoping that, because Townsend was out for quite a bit of time last season. We've still got Schlupp. He was out for a period of time last season, so you could even move Zaha over to the right and have Schlupp as an attacking left. So I would like to think that he would play Ayew through the middle. Benteke is still holding on somehow to the squad. I'm not too sure how or why.
I fucking forgot about him. I'm not even joking.
He's in the game. He is there.
He's 5.5 million. I think I'd rather get No, I'm joking. Go carry on.
Rather get Wickham.
But yeah, 4.5 and just leave him third on the fucking bench. Yeah, cool.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. I think Connor Wickham's ownership is not far behind Jordan Ayew at the moment. There's only a couple of percent in it, 7.2, 5.9.
Yeah, so I would hope he'd play through the middle. I was speaking to a few people in DMs, and I did like the sound of having like Ayew, Zaha, Eze, maybe Schlupp, having the freedom to counter-attack with just pure pace, pure technique on the ball, having the rest of it as solid as we're usually quite solid at the back, and then just having them for maybe another support from Gallagher. He seems to be a box-to-box midfielder if we do manage to get him up on loan, and then just say to them, just go play, just go and score some goals if you can. Give him a sense of freedom. But is that the Roy way? Not too sure. He's certainly a lot more disciplined. But the signs, at least from the media team, the signs seem to be going in a more youthful, freedom sort of playing way.
It needs to, because if they're going to analyse the club, and they will be, I'm sure, they're going to analyse it and go, the age of this squad is too high.
Yeah.
And we need to do something about it. And it's not like, for example, this time last year, you didn't need a signing like Gary Cahill, because you did. And he did quite well for you, by the way. So I'm not saying you can't buy that sort of player, but at some point, you've got to look at it and go, right, this squad needs energising. I spoke, and we're going to speak about him in a minute, I'm sure. We spoke about Tyreek Mitchell in December.
Yeah.
And he never got a look in until like a couple of months ago. It was like, look, this kid plays left back. He's quite highly rated. Van Aanholt's out. Stick him in the team. And there's always going to be a reluctance, I think. And again, we'll talk about that in a sec. Now's the time. It's the start of the season. There's no crowd. There's no pressure. Take advantage and have a look at some of these guys. The signing of Eze literally has changed my mind from thinking I really think you'll get relegated to thinking I'm not so sure now, because suddenly I think, oh, have you changed philosophy? Has the trigger happened, and is he the first? And there might be some more young players coming in, because it's definitely needed, particularly as well in this season more than any other, where regularly you're going to play 3 times a week.
Yeah.
It's going to get tough.
Yeah. And when you're looking at a midfield of MacArthur, bless him, Milivojevic, Kouyaté, at the back, you've got Dan, Cahill, Sacco. I mean, whenever they're not injured, which most of them are at the moment, you're going to need a lot of youthful legs. And it's good to see that they've signed a 19-year-old a 22-year-old, 20-year-old on loan. The numbers are going in the right direction because, quite frankly, I don't think we would have survived another season relying on people in their early 30s. Speaking of someone in their early 30s, I can barely last 5 minutes running around.
Are you in your earlies?
The hairline suggests late 30s, but yeah, early 30s.
Mig, why the fuck do you think I'm wearing a cap?
Hold on, where's the light's in the wrong place, sir?
Jesus. Let's talk about these two 4.0 defenders then, because I think actually it's probably what people want to have come here and want to know most. So, a simple question for you, Mig: Mitchell, Ferguson, or neither?
At the moment, I've got Mitchell. All indications will be that he'll start a left back. I mean, I can envision Roy thrown in like a Weideveld or a Schlupp at left back.
He's such a curveball, but he could do, couldn't he? Yeah.
But Mitchell started the last 2 preseason games, which is encouraging. Ferguson is injured at the moment. He had a niggling knee injury, which is why we didn't get him in January because he failed the medical. And he re-aggravated that during the summer. So he probably wouldn't start. So if you were going for a 4 mil, which it seems like a lot of people are because their ownerships are ridiculously high, I would go with Mitchell at least for the first 4 game weeks, I think. Someone asked me about PVA's injury, and I swiftly pushed them towards Ben Dinnery because that's what I
Well done.
Yeah.
And you got a response out of him, in fairness. I saw. Yeah.
The end of September, I think he's aiming for, but you've got the international break just at the start of October.
Yeah,
so
he probably won't play before, yeah.
No, yeah. So I'd imagine maybe game week 5 that he would come back. But then if Ferguson's back by then, we're going into that good run of games and Mitchell is dropped, you can just easily swift over to Ferguson, who may be 3.9 by then if he's got quite high ownership. All of those people
7.2, right? A lot of people that have logged in early and just chucked him in as their 4.0 placeholder who don't then change him and then decide that they want to come off him after game week 2 or 3. Yeah, you could easily drop down to 3.9.
I mean, it happened to Peltier a couple of seasons ago at Cardiff.
Yeah, was in at 3.8 at one point and stuff like that. Yeah,
I don't think it dropped that severely, but you may get 0.1 out of it.
The thing is, and why I don't particularly like the 2 4.0 Palace options, is a couple of reasons. So Mitchell is short term, exactly what Miggs already said. When Van Aanholt's fit, he's coming back in the team, unless he decides in his wisdom that he's going to play Van Aanholt left wing, which I don't see that. Do you see that as a possibility, Mig? No. Ferguson is a right back who's come from West Bromwich Albion. I think a few people are like, "Oh, I've not heard of this kid before. He's come through the academy." No, played like half the games for West Brom in the Championship last year. West Brom fans don't seem too bothered that he's gone, although I think it kind of broke a little bit badly by the sounds of things. So there might be a bit of bitterness about that. I haven't seen him play, but I also know that Roy has his players that he trusts, and Joel Ward is probably one of them. And I don't think there's any certainty at all that this kid's going to come and take Joel Ward's place. So when you factor the Ferguson Ward problems, Mitchell is the best immediate choice. Mitchell is only really a choice for those who are going to wild card early.
Yeah.
So it kind of basically rules me out. I might as well go to somewhere else. I'm not sure about Johnson, for example, at West Ham, or I'm not sure about Bernardo at Brighton or Douglas at Leeds, for example. But it might be that the potential is in them when we're looking at the Palace guys. Because even if you get one of these guys at the start and you are intending to wildcard early, fine, stick Mitchell in. You ain't going to start him anyway. So
exactly. He's going to sit on your bench for your first 4 weeks. It's a moot point.
Does it even matter who are you going to start with? So, yeah, I think for those who have kind of got my idea at the moment of longer term strategy, it's avoid. And exactly what you said, it might be that it will come up for Ferguson and he'll be 3.9.
Yeah.
Even where then you just move to him at 4 if that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to get Mitchell, I suppose the only way you would pick him is if you were looking further along and you had a couple of Man United players on the bench or something like that ready for game week 2. of which you're going to play them against Mitchell anyway. So he may squeeze into a game week 1 team like that, or if you're feeling a little bit.
Where Mitchell has a little bit of a plus and actually might be quite a good choice for those who are thinking, I want a wild card in game week 4 or something, might be that at the moment he looks like he's going to play.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's playing, if you got a good result, let's say you kept a clean sheet against Southampton, immediately eyes on him and immediately people will be buying him. You might nick the value of 0.1 when you wild card. Genuinely, that's the best I see out of it. I don't think at the moment we could call either Mitchell or Ferguson long-term assets, in my opinion. It might come back round for Ferguson.
Yeah. I'm looking very similarly to what you described there, Mig, trying to squeeze in as many, I say City and United. I'm also, I've got Charlie Taylor from Burnley, so non-playing game week 1 players into my squad so I don't have to make any moves, which means Ben Johnson was my 4 million defender, but will play for me in game week 1. So I may move him actually across Tyreek Mitchell. So I think I could end up with Charlie Taylor, Martial, Mason Greenwood, and Nyland as my bench, which means none of them have got a fixture in game week 1, but I've got a few ready for game week 2. So I do need a playing 4.0, and there will be a few in that boat.
Yeah, I mean that even if he's just there for the first game week, and then besides someone like Lundstrom or Wan-Bissaka when he's at Palace, you're not guaranteed to have the 4.0 playing every week anyway. They're there to come in if you need them. I mean, the only problem really is then having to use that transfer that you may want to use elsewhere if that person is just flat out not playing and you're going to need to get rid of him. But Ferguson did play centre-back for West Brom's under-21 team before moving to the senior team and playing left and right back. So he can play centre-back if we still have those injuries there, where at the moment we're playing Kouyaté and we got the Polish signing Yak on the bench, who hasn't had a minute since he's joined. So if he does come back before those injuries come, he could fill in at centre-back. But then obviously he's not really there for the attacking returns, but then 4.0 mil, a clean sheet would do me.
I'm guessing, Mig, that Mitchell's the one in your squad.
Yes.
Are you planning to wildcard early?
Probably around the international break. I think that's when I done it last year. But yeah, probably around that sort of time.
If you're short-term planning, I think it's all right. And if you want to hear about chip strategy, Series 4, Episode 3, we're not talking about that now. So defensively as well, as you kind of alluded to, you've got a mess. You've got Sacco injured, Tompkins injured, Cahill injured, Van Arnholt injured, Ferguson injured as well. Are you saying you're available to play, Mig? Or
yeah, I can stand at the back and do,
I'll get me boots. I can't go and watch Spurs at the moment anyway, so I might as well go and play for your lot.
I was going to say, might as well get in the stadium somehow.
Yeah, it's my best bet, isn't it?
When we got Tottenham away.
That's got to be concerning as well. In terms of if you're thinking of investing, if you're in Sudge's position, and there are people thinking, "Oh, I'll get him in. It's decent fixture at the start." Like, can you see clean sheets early doors with what you've got absent at the moment?
Well, I would like to say, Southampton, but then Ings destroyed us last season. Man United, we done well against Man United. Yep. We did win, but they didn't have Bruno Fernandes at the time. They didn't have an informed Greenwood at the time. And an informed Martial, who completely transformed when Bruno arrived. So that probably looks a bit off. We got a rejuvenated Chelsea side, game week 4, I believe. So, and Everton in game week 3. So, the games aren't easy. I probably wouldn't see too many clean sheets, maybe one, but we really have to work hard for that.
Will you start Mitchell in game week 1?
At the moment, no. But it depends if my strategy changes towards game week 2. If I need him. I'll rely on him if I need him. Right. Otherwise, no, he can take a break.
Noted. What about the goalkeeper? Because he performs consistently well. Is it just a case that because he's 5 million, it's just going to pass everyone by? Is it?
It's just a terrible price. 0.5 less is probably the more popular option with McCarthy and Ryan. 0.5 more, you're getting people like Pope, Patricio, Lloris. 5 mil for a Palace goalkeeper. You're not going to jump and throw him in when you can save 0.5 or spend 0.5 more on the best goalkeeper in the game.
137 points in isolation on its own, though, is good, right? I mean, we were talking about Jordan Ayew's points, right? That's more.
Yeah, he's a great keeper. I can't deny that. I mean, there was a point during the season and the summer where I thought he was going to lose him, and we were going to get stuck with Wayne, which would have been
not good.
Really disastrous.
He must be 40 now.
Oh, what, Hennessy?
Yeah.
Oh, he's probably about 22. He's been playing for about 20 years anyway.
when he goes out at night, he acts like he's 22 as well. That's another podcast. Let's talk about Wilf a bit then, because I've been critical of him heavily. So go and defend, or are you at the period now where you think it would be better for him to move on?
I accepted last summer that he would probably go when it was really, really strong that he was going to go to Arsenal. And then I was just kind of like, Palace can take quite a bit of money here. I don't know who we would have replaced him with at the time. And it probably would have meant relegation, although his goal contribution wasn't exactly high last season. But when Palace fans defend Benteke, it's not because of goals, it's because of influence on the game, of which Zaha obviously has a large influence on our games. Whether or not it's being attacked or not during the game is a different story. But for him, I think he probably deserves a move to a big team. I can accept that. You know, we had a moment where we could have pushed for Europe last season, and then for some reason they let football come back and it all went disastrously wrong. I think we should have just cancelled the season when it was. I was a big advocate.
That's my favourite comment from all the podcasts so far. So you should have been a Spurs fan, Mick. Carry on.
But it's gone quiet. He's kept his head down, which last season there was loads of like really sort of cryptic Instagrams and tweets and I mean there was that one where in the club this summer in the club and they were saying Arsenal come and get him, and then he sort of distanced himself quite quickly from that. He's kept his head down. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists in pre-season. Seems to be having more influence on the game, so hopefully, I mean the 7 mil he's had a bit of a drop, but he's still on the same price as people like Grealish and stuff like that, so not really wonderful price-wise. But I would hope that he would put his head down and just play, become one of the senior members of the team. Or I can see him going abroad. And his agents suggested that people like Monaco and Dortmund were in for him, which I could see play like Dortmund, especially if Sancho goes. See them coming in for Wilf, but if he goes abroad...
Dortmund tend to go younger with their signings and stuff, don't they?
If he was to go, I'd like to see him go abroad, just so he can't score against us.
I think Zaha thinks he's out in the club like the night. Most of us have seen the picture where he's pointing at this "Welcome to Arsenal" sign or something, and he's all smiling about it. You were pointing at it, mate. I think he thinks he spotted across that same club. He thinks Arsenal's the beautiful woman he sees, but when he gets up close, she ain't that pretty. And I don't, to be honest, I don't think it'd be a good signing for Arsenal either. Actually,
I don't know where he would fit in, especially with players like Saka and stuff coming through the team.
He's basically ended up staying because Palace completely priced him out of a move.
Yes.
Which, by the way, we shouldn't be critical of, because how many times have we seen clubs with respect of your size just roll over and the big clubs come in, we'll sell our asset, we'll get bullied for money. Palace put their foot down. To be honest, there's probably a little bit of regret that they didn't take the maximum money for it, because if he was to leave now, you're certainly not going to get the money you would have got last summer.
Oh no, I mean,
he's still saw last season.
Yeah, I mean, we can still command quite a high price because his contract doesn't end until 2023. So I mean, we still got him for another 3 years, and his contract is not like a Ramsey or something like that where or Urs or whatever's going on there. So we could still command quite a high price, but then teams have now seen that we're not going to just go, okay, yeah, 50 mil, you can have him. So they're going to, there's a lot of bother there. We're not going to go there. I'm going to look over and look at this player over here. So I can say, I mean, I had a lot of arguments with fans last season when they were going, oh, he's not worth 70 mil and stuff like that. Like, well, no, but to a team like Palace and like
worth more.
To a team like Villa, exactly, he's worth Premier League football, which is a lot more than 70 mil. So to us, we're giving him away cheap for 70 mil.
Yeah. I get that. The reason I get critical with him is because I think he's so good. Yeah. He's got so much ability. That's what annoys me. His attitude annoys me, that he lets other people frustrate him and he lashes out sometimes. And the thing that annoys me most is, and it might be under instruction, but I don't feel like it is, you look at Jordan Ayew's goal at Bournemouth, where the ball, and Zaha, it's great work from Zaha, actually puts Van Aanholt away. The ball gets pulled out and Ayew's coming from the right and scores. On the other side of the pitch, Zaha won't be there. Yeah. He'll still be hugging the touchline. And it really annoys me so much, because I just feel like you don't have the desire to get in the positions that will get you another 5-6 goals a season. That's why I get angry with him, because I know how bloody talented he is. I wanted us to sign him a few years ago.
And he rolls around a little bit too much.
They all do that.
It's one roll too many. You know, I could handle a couple, and it's the third and fourth.
It's the way he acts, and we all know he's getting wound up. So people just do it more and more. We can see it on the telly, so the players know he's getting pissed off. So he's just gonna keep getting targeted. I hope for him that Eze gives him some freedom, and from a football perspective, I hope we see the player that we know that the year before got 21 attacking returns in the Premier League, 10 goals, 11 assists. Yeah. For context, the only two players to get more than double figures for goals and assists this season was De Bruyne and Heung-min Son. Zaha the year before did it. So that's the anger, because we know that he's capable. Is he in any way a potential starting asset, in your opinion?
I wouldn't start him in FPL. When you can have someone, even if you want to stick with the same team and you can go for Eze for a mil cheaper, or Ayew for a mil cheaper up front, I wouldn't be touching him, and he would definitely be a wait and see. See if he even stays with Palace by the end of October, I think it is, whenever the window closes, and just how he performs. I mean, like you say, as soon as he squares up to a player, it's just like, oh, well, that's him gone for the rest of the game, because he's just going to be frustrated as soon as the next person goes. Troy Deeney said it exactly the same. They just take it in turns just to have a kick at him. But I think we even said about this last year, when we're saying that instead of getting that anger and getting frustrated and then just losing your control, just think, right, these guys are kicking me for a reason, because they know I'm too good. Yeah, so I'm just going to use that, and next time I'm going to make them look stupid by them not being able to touch me. It just seems like that not being able to, in the moment, he just sees red and then starts.
He loses control of his dominance of a football match, because nobody wants to get isolated against him one-on-one. He'll murder the best right back on the planet if he gets them one-on-one, which, because of the way you structure and because of what you have ability-wise, as we already mentioned, he gets doubled up on and stuff. But use that. People then think 10 minutes into a game, I've got him today, he's in a mood. Whereas what you should be doing is getting up and demanding the football and then running at people, and people start shitting themselves. And eventually you get the rewards. We've seen him do it before. I'd love to see him show the form that he showed 2 years ago, where this time last year before the start of the season, it was all Zaha. It must be 2 years ago when they reclassified him, wasn't it? Zaha and Arnautovic classified the two to forwards. Yeah. It was like, which one do you start with? And many people started with both. I think I started with both, actually. He looked like such a brilliant asset. I think it was 7 million forward. He's now 7 million midfielder now, 2 years on, and we're saying no.
Yeah, and nothing's really changed. I mean, he's developed a bit, but not to the fullest extent that I would like to see as a Palace fan. But you know, we all still love him.
Where do you think he'll finish, Mick?
As you always will, mate.
What was that? Sorry, Serge?
Where do you think you'll finish next season? Well, what are you realistic and hopeful for?
Realistically, probably just above the drop. Hopefully, pressing top half. I mean, I was up in La La Land thinking that we could possibly get 7th or 8th, or maybe even 6th. Oh, no, 6th. No, 6th. No, that was too much. Maybe touching Europe. But I think if we could get top half, then that would go beyond my expectations. Probably mid-lower table would be realistically, which is fine, but it's not development. But I was fearing the worst before these signings came in, and we could have been bottom 2. It would have been the toughest season to stay up from when the first season we came up. I think it would have been. Now a little bit more optimistic. Hopefully they can press on with signings and we can trouble the top half of the table at least.
I think anything above 15th next season, considering the amount of defensive injuries you've got at the start of the season, how tough it's going to be, and the strength and depth in the second tier behind the top 6 in the league, in the Wolves and Sheffield United and Leicester and Southampton and even Brighton look like they're half decent, and Everton are going to be in there, Newcastle. I feel like anything above 15th is going to be an okay result, and if you can get to that top half, 10th or 11th, that would be really good for Crystal Palace next season.
Yeah, I mean, I know if we can keep a stability with the defenders that we have out, I know having a really bad start can be recovered. I mean, you don't have to get a point in your first 7 games and you can finish towards the middle of the table. But I don't really want to go through that again. So if we could just have like a solid start to the season, even if that it will be losses, but throw a few wins in there, stay in that mid-bottom table for the start of the season and then push on rather than having to play catch up from December onwards.
I think you're a team that we shouldn't write off. I think you fall into a category where one of the reasons we look at people like Mitchell and Ferguson, and I even bring Gator into the conversation, is because at your best and when everyone's fit, defensively, you're sort of side that actually we could all trust. I'm concerned greatly by what I saw during the restart period, which was shocking. I watched 6 or 7 of your games and it was bad.
Yeah.
The last game against us weren't fucking great either, mate, which was the one after. I mean, the thing is, the shocking thing was you played well at Bournemouth and then there was no click on top of that. When we recorded with Jack and we looked at the Burnley game, genuinely, we did sit there and go, well, if one of you could really push on and win that game that evening and then push on, you could finish for Europe. And it turned out that it was them. Yeah. And you went completely the other way. The 5 goals in the restart period is scary in 9 games. I think Eze could be a game changer for you. If he's not, I think you could go down, mate.
Yeah. We definitely need to push on, and goals. Having Ayew as the only person nearing the double figures in goals is worrying in and of itself. And trusting people like Benteke and Wickham as backups when they've only scored literally as much on your hand in a couple of seasons, that's where the pessimism came in when you see that starting the season with that finishing the season, there not being any real difference. But now that there's been a more youthful injection into the squad, hopefully that affects those players.
Agreed.
And they now see, oh, this youngster's coming in. That's going to move me even further back in the pecking order. I need to up my game to get back into this team, which is rather than going, oh, well, there's no one else here, so Roy's going to start me. It's a bit more lackluster.
I think the concern also comes from looking at the other teams who, to be honest, were worse than you last year.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it, but Brighton, I think, will improve. West Ham will improve. For long periods, you will level with Southampton. They're definitely going to be better this year, I think. Sheffield United, you can't see getting sucked into it. Suddenly you're having a conversation again. Well, actually, and none of us seem to think Leeds will go down. Suddenly you're having a conversation. We've only got 4 or 5 teams left and you're one of them. And that's why I think if you don't score goals, you'll be in trouble. But the flip of it is, the best of Palace that we've seen since you came up in 2014 or 13. Away from home, particularly, when you defend properly, you break on people with speed and actually get numbers forward. I think that's the thing that would make a big difference. Give Zaha some space as well, is get extra bodies forward when you actually attack teams. And you'd be all right, because when you've got the likes of Cahill, Tompkins, Sacco, the goalkeeper's all right, Van Aanholt's all right, you're okay defensively if you've got your best out there. It scares me that you're definitely not going to start that way and suddenly you're chasing. You also need a crowd back, probably as much as any other football team at the moment. You can see that it feels like there's a little bit of lack of inspiration, and quite often, although your home record and your away record, you're one of the sides who does perform quite well away from home. I just think it'll give the club such a massive lift. Whereas, like for Spurs, the worst thing would be right now is to get a crowd back in the ground and people actually not liking what they're watching at the moment. No one has to judge it. Whereas your fans will probably lift you a lot. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, the Homestyle stand, even just attacking that stand, is much like Liverpool attacking the Kop. Or
it's psychological.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all it is, but it's psychological.
Yeah. Just to hear, as you're running down, just to hear a roar, sort of, it just pushes you down a little bit further rather than hearing silence and just someone shouting, screaming your name. So the crowd is definitely one of the things that we need back, and maybe a couple of more youthful signings just to bolster the squad a little bit.
We'll be keeping a close eye, Mick, in the next few weeks, and obviously the transfer window's open all the way up till October the 5th or 8th, James?
5th, I think it is.
Yeah, so you never know, a couple more signings coming through the door could prove good things. Thanks for joining us, Mig. Thanks for your rundown on Crystal Palace. For anybody that doesn't follow Mig already on Twitter, it's at Migtavius. And if you don't want to figure out how to spell that, head over to @PlanetFPL where James has a Twitter list of all 20 of our correspondents. You can automatically follow all 20 of them in one click. James, where are we headed to next?
You could, I like that. Mick just held up a beer can that says High Hopes on it. It's really not difficult to go Migtavious, by the way.
There's no O, James.
I hope I fucking spelled that right. Is it no you? What did I say?
There's no O. There's no O.
I never said O.
You did.
Ayew. Migtavious.
There we go, James.
I didn't say O. Listen, I can fucking edit this shit anyway. I'm fucked on YouTube, but I'll fix the audio.
Oh, fantastic. James, where are we heading to next in Correspondence Week?
Just to say to Mig and to the Palace fans listening, I know we got a lot of followers who support Palace. I don't want you to go down. I'm just genuinely worried for you. We are next with going to one side, who, as I just said, nobody seems to think will go down. Very much looking forward to speaking to Andy Martin, FPL tactician, and talking about Leeds.
Fantastic. To all the listeners, once again, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast. We are now 3/4 of the way through Correspondence Week, whether it's on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. Just hit that subscribe button and you'll get notified as soon as we go live with the latest Correspondent Week shows. And most importantly, as always, stay safe, guys. Ciao for now.
Thanks, Mig. Cue music, please, man child.